conversation between Deborah and Dave Finnegan, Chief Experience Officer at Orvis. Take it away, Dave and Deborah.
Great. Thanks so much, Max. So I have known Dave for what feels like a short time, as he constantly keeps me on my toes, which I guess is what a Chief Experience Officer at Orvis is supposed to do. But when I looked at the fact that I've known him from his early Build-A-Bear days as CIO, I realized we're going on almost 2 decades of friendship, which I am very thankful and grateful for. So Dave, as we are discussing how to support the customer journey, how have you seen the customer change this past year, and what has that meant to Orvis?
So what we saw at Orvis is this customers shift back to some of the basics in life, right? Some of the meaningful connections, a shift to go outdoors again, a shift to reconnect in a meaningful way to the outdoors, a shift in the way we thought about our relationships and how important they were. We saw a huge shift in dog ownership. You know, now you're at home, people are getting puppies, or they're now their office mate is a dog. And so we saw this movement into that space. We also saw a really strong shift into comfy and casual workwear. We had that part of our business, and it was on fire. So we saw this monumental shift in how we valued our time. You know, we're spending a lot of time digitally, we're spending a lot of time online, but the ability to escape that and the ability to have meaningful experiences outside of that digital connection was something that we saw shift pretty dramatically. That said, from a digital perspective, I would say that our customer, and in general, our humanity has probably seen a 5 to 7 year evolution all in 1 year in the way that we work, the way that we go to school, the way that we shop, the way that we entertain. We've had this massive monumental shift into digital in a really, really meaningful way. And it was already happening. That was the path that we were on as a society. But that, to Sarah's point earlier, that got accelerated during this time. It exponentially changed. So we saw this really interesting dynamic of digital coming into our lives in a much more meaningful way, and the desire to take a break from digital and the work that you were doing and all of the news and all of the things, and reconnect to the outside world. That was probably the 2 biggest shifts that we've seen.
How did you handle the spikes in demand, and how have you adjusted your business going forward as a result?
Where we saw the biggest impact in our business, the categories that did the most phenomenal double-digit growth, as you can imagine, is fly fishing. We're a fly fishing brand. We've been around since 1856, since right before the Lincoln administration, right? So we saw this resurgence in fly fishing that is unprecedented. The only time that we've seen anything close to this from a fly fishing industry is when Brad Pitt had a fly rod in his hand and was in the movie A River Runs Through It. That made fly fishing more popular too. But so we're seeing this massive shift. So our fly fishing business is phenomenally strong. We have local manufacture for high-end, our best fly rods. So highly craftsman oriented, high quality rods and reels and things like that are made here in the US and Vermont. We saw a huge uptick in people wanting to do that. We also saw a huge uptick on people who wanted to learn how to do it for the first time. Deborah, you and I talked about having a little fly fishing get together for women in business in Central Park, where we were teaching women in business fly fishing. So we saw that as a way of people thinking, how can I reconnect? How can I add some balance into my life that's meaningful? So that was a category we saw was really strong. And the supply chain for us, fortunately, has been pretty resilient through that. It supported the growth that we're seeing. We had plans to continue to grow that business, so we had invested there, and we've been chasing into that. So that's good. We also saw a double-digit growth in dog. Orvis literally invented the dog bed. The dog nest is what it was originally called. And that has exploded right now, right? More dog ownership. What's interesting is if you look at the demographics, we've got boomers at X, and we're reaching into a lot of millennials who are owning dogs and want to go fly fishing and looking for a cool sport that they can get into. We also see some massive movements from a equity perspective, from different socioeconomic people and races getting into a sport that is primed for that. A lot of movement of women who are taking up fly fishing as well. So those are the two categories that we've seen on fire. And then on the apparel side, the comfy, cozy story, especially early on, like tops, not so much bottoms. It was clear that everybody was on video conference because, our pant sales dropped. They've come back since then, but especially early on, there was a big move to comfy casual, and people rethinking, how do I want to work, and what's the brand that I want to portray when I'm working? That's shifted a lot. So we've chased into those opportunities. Frankly, we reduced our inventories dramatically, just like Sarah described with having extra inventory. We went after that aggressively, and then we chased into the things that were working the most throughout the year.
Can you talk a little bit about there's oftentimes this challenge between the CMO and the CIO with regards to budgeting, to initiatives. With both of those kind of under your purview, how are you kind of moving things faster forward? And if we look at kind of sales in December and January, were there any interesting takeaways that you can share with us?
Yeah, so for me, my roots are in the CIO side of the equation. I was the CIO Council chairman for the National Retail Federation for a number of years. And as part of that council, I strongly believed in the relationship between CIOs and CMOs. The democratization of tech meant that CIOs and CMOs had to work together meaningfully because customers were doing that differently than ever before. And so that customer shift meant we had to be better at doing that. And we haven't always been good at that as an industry of working together. We have different priorities. One's a shorter term. Tech tends to be a little bit longer term of what they're putting in. So at Orvis, we had an opportunity to reorganize our teams, and we reorganized so that the CIO and the CMO role is the same, reports to the same organization, customer experience role. That allows us to really quickly align our customer experience projects as the top of the things that we're going to invest in. I had a strategy meeting with our team in DC a couple of years ago, and we were doing secret shopping after our strategy meeting in DC, just walking around to shops that we thought we could learn from and understand better from. And I was walking behind a technology person and a marketing person, head of technology, head of retail marketing. And the marketing person turned to the technology person and said, you know how this would have worked, right? In the past, we would have a strategy meeting, and then we would come to IT and tell you what we needed you to do. This approach is technology at the table as an enabler for strategy and business results. And so having that conversation way up the chain and having technology with a seat at it, knowing that digital and the technology matters to deliver on amazing experiences, that's been very, very helpful for us.
Great. We've got some questions from the audience. Do you see on-demand or just-in-time manufacturing as a must for brands and retailers?
I do. I think it's a bit of we're all chasing to get there, right? It's how fast we can scale that, especially in an industry like ours where there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into what we're doing. So we would love to be able to scale that. We haven't figured out how to do that. I haven't seen anyone who has been able to manufacture on demand and still respond in a meaningful way to the customer's expectation of timing. So it's certainly where the whole industry is going, well, we'll all figure it out together, but we're not there yet.
And then there's been some questions around specifically what IT software tools are you using, or, kind of however you want to address that question, Dave.
Just in general, the IT systems that we use. So we just had an IT steering committee meeting yesterday. We call it a business steering committee meeting, business and IT investment. That's what we call it. And we focus each of our projects. Part of our givens or our mission is to focus our projects on experience first. And so that means that we're going to invest in digital experiences before we upgrade the financial systems, which is important to upgrade the financial systems. But in our roadmap, we want to improve those experiences first. There's a handful of systems that we use. We use Salesforce on the digital side, digital marketing. Our ESP is Salesforce. We're using artificial intelligence from Salesforce with their Einstein product that is unlocking a whole new level of personalization for us. Our email program was a mature program. It's up 30%. So far this year, it's up 56%.
Wow.
In part, we're using AI to more personalize the conversation with the consumer, with our customers. And so we use a lot of Salesforce. We use Oracle on the planning side, on the back end, and we use Manhattan that we're putting in distributed order management as we speak.
And what do you see as, you think about investing in the 12 or 24 months ahead, what will be the most important investments that you make?
So where you'll see us continue to invest is on the digital experience and supply chain side. So this year, in April, we'll be rolling out a new digital experience that will be integrated into our email and social marketing ecosystem that we have. That's tied into our, we do adventure travel around the world. We do guides around the world, those types of things. So we see this opportunity to bring all of those things together on one digital experience. That's a meaningful experience. So you'll see us invest in that. That'll launch this year. We'll get better and better at it. This is an infinite game. It's not a place you arrive, right? It's a continuous improvement. And so we're shifting also into a model of every 100 days meaningful business value for our technology investments, particularly on the digital side. So what are the things that we're going to do that are going to drive business performance every 100 days? And so you'll see us invest there. We're also investing in the supply chain. We're doing projects with Manhattan right now on distributed order management that allows us to maximize where our inventory is. We already do reserve online, pickup in the store. We do ship from store. We do those types of things, but this allows us to take it to the next level with other delivery options to the consumer from the retail location. So you'll see us in the next few years focus on those two main areas.
Okay, we have a question from Rich. What type of investment have you made in your store team?
The store team for us, Rich, it's an excellent question. I'll give you a really quick story, indulge me. When I was at Build-A-Bear, I was helping to launch a store of the future concept. And one of my good friends was over all of the stores. And I'd been into the stores hundreds of times, observed how customers interacted, observed where their smiles, we did a process called smile mapping, where we would map where people smiled in the store, where they were engaged. And so I'd done that many, many times. And what was interesting is my friend said to me, Dave, we get our highest guest satisfaction when one human connects to another human in the store. And I was like, this is the most digitally connected kid on the planet, right? This generation, they're more digitally savvy, but their value that they put in human connection was still extremely important to them. And so what that meant to me is sometimes when I tell that story, people think I'm anti-digital. I'm not. I'm centered on human connection, because the human connected part is what differentiates it. And so in the context of retail, there's no better manifestation of that communication, that connection, than a human interaction at retail for our brand, that aids our brand. Because our store associates are like guides. People are going on trips to Africa, people are going on trips to Russia, wherever they're headed. They go to the store as a trusted guide. And that human interaction is an extreme extremely important to the manifestation of who we are and our brand. We also teach fly fishing classes for free at our store. So our store associates, we're launching a series right now of fly tying, fly fishing, where our store associates are part of the people who teach remotely in their communities. So it's extremely important to us.
Great. We've got questions and we're getting close on time. So I'll make this the last question and I'll bundle it together. If you can talk about what you're doing on blockchain to underpin transparency or where that is in your roadmap, and then any thoughts on RFID.
Good questions. Both of those are emerging tech for us. If we take RFID first, one of the places that this is less supply chainy and more IoT, when I first got here, we took a fly rod and we put a ton of accelerometers in it and we put an RFID chip in it. And then we measured its bend and its velocity. And we took that math and then we compared it. So we took it when I casted a fly rod compared to like the Michael Jordan of fly fishing. And there was a big difference in the math, no surprise, right? And so we thought, how can we use tech RFID, IoT that will help us to shape the product offerings that we have to help us make better products and better experiences. So we're just starting down that path. We think that there's an opportunity, especially for RFID in a high-end fly rod, that we also have a warranty that's 25 years, right? So let's talk about sustainability. Our fly rods, we've had people write us and say a polar bear broke my fly rod in half, or it got stuck in the fan in the lodge I was in, whatever it was, we guarantee those things for 25 years. So tracking that for the consumer and making it a value add for the consumer, super big opportunity for us. On the blockchain perspective, we haven't dabbled in blockchain yet. We're not at a size where we have a huge R&D team or that we're building our own. So we rely a lot on our suppliers like Oracle or Manhattan to help us with those types of tech.
Great, Dave. Thank you so much. With that, Max, back to you.